Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and we are back with more news and politics for the day of Wednesday. It's today, day's Wednesday, January the 29th, 2025. Now, we're going to have a lot to look at, so let's jump into this. First, from the liver, how crypto mined Kyrsten Sinema. Kyrsten Sinema took cash and did favors for cryptocurrency companies while in Congress. Now she's going to work for one of them. On Wednesday, former Senator Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona announced her first post-congressional plans, serving as an advisor to Coinbase, a $73 billion cryptocurrency exchange platform. The move comes after Sinema took nearly $10,000 from the company and tens of thousands more from other crypto interests, all while pushing bills to limit oversight of the volatile, largely unregulated industry. A clear example of corruption. While still in the office in September of 2024, Sinema appeared at a public event sponsored by Coinbase, telling a crowd that it's important that we use this election cycle to ensure that the crypto community's voice is heard. Now that she's out of a job as a lawmaker after announcing she would not run again because people pretty much despised her for her turn from progressivism into corrupt lawmaker, Sinema has turned her support for the industry into her next gig. She will join Coinbase's Global Advisory Council alongside former Trump campaign manager Chris LaCivita, who stewarded President Donald Trump's pro-crypto 2024 platform. See, it shows corruption runs along both parties. On to our next story to look at here from Ken Klippenstein. Trump's funding freeze does not include presidential protection. Funds for me, but not for thee. The Trump administration's various suspensions and freezes on federal funding do not apply to presidential security, according to a Friday memo Ken obtained. The memo, prepared by the General Services Administration, which oversees the federal infrastructure, is just one of a number that exempts the protection of President Trump and Vice President Vance. According to intelligence sources he spoke with. Titled Acquisition Pause, the January 24th GSA memo cites a short list of exceptions, beginning with actions to support the president, vice president, and the Secret Service in ensuring security at any dollar. Though the document itself does not go into further detail, there is marked concern about the president and vice president's safety. As one former senior intelligence official revealed to me, the Secret Service has significantly increased Trump and Vance's protective detail well beyond the 300 or so Secret Service agents and support personnel typically assigned to the president and vice president. Maybe if they weren't such assholes, you wouldn't have to worry about them so much. From inequality.org. Buy, hold for decades, sell. The tax loophole that's concentrating America's wealth and political power at the top. For decades now, the growth rate of America's largest fortunes has dwarfed the growth rate of our total national wealth. The political power those massive fortunes can now buy has pushed us perilously close to oligarchy. Honestly, I think we've already been in oligarchy. We're in a second Gilded Age. Billionaires, as we now see, are dominating the new Trump administration. America's total household wealth since 2014 has roughly doubled, increasing from about $80 trillion in 2014 to around $160 trillion today. Over that same period, though, the wealth of America's eight richest individuals, average net worth is over $200 billion, has more than quadrupled, jumping from $390 billion in 2014 to $1.7 trillion today. 8 people in America are worth $1.7 trillion. Wow. America as a whole has went from 80 trillion for the people to 160 trillion. Again, the top 8 people are worth 1.7 trillion alone. That leaves the rest for 330 million people. Yeah, it shows you how unbalanced it is. In other words, over just the last decade, the ultra-billionaire share of our nation's wealth has more than doubled. If you're an American citizen, your chance of becoming a billionaire, less than 1 in 42 million. Back in 1982, the year the annual Forbes list of America's 400 richest made its debut, the entire 400 did not hold collectively even a full 1% of the nation's wealth. Today, just our top 8 richest alone now hold that 1% of wealth. So, a little over 40 years, and it goes from the richest 400 not even holding a full 1% to only the top 8 owning actually holding 1% of America's wealth. Again, it shows how the wealth has went to the top instead of the average people. If this does not anger you, you are a moron. Or you're fucking wealthy. Or potentially both. Anyway, let's jump into the Appalachia subreddit. We have a piece here, useful information from a local business in Knoxville, Tennessee. What to do if ICE comes to your business, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. If ICE pays your business a visit, you should ask the agents to present a warrant. If they're unable to do so, then you don't have to let them enter the premises. If the instance that agents do produce a warrant, make sure to examine it and see if there's a signature, because it may not be signed off by a judge. Can ICE enter a business without a warrant? ICE raids are not announced in advance. Rather, ICE agents are free to enter any public areas of the business, such as a lobby or parking lot. However, in order to enter non-public business premises, the agent must have a signed judicial search warrant or the employer's consent. So yeah. So if you're someone who gives a damn about helping people, if you have a business that you're helping others at, take that into consideration. Now, let's go ahead and look at this article here from Tech Explorist. A house in England is identified as a lost site from the Bayeux Tapestry, which is the tapestry that gives us the moment when shoot, I forgot the king from Saxony who came and conquered England. 1066 is a year, I know, but I can't think of his name. I can't think of his name, but yeah. Anyway, the house is, they believe they have located where Harold Godwinson was, who was the last Anglo-Saxon king of England. And Harold was, of course, defeated. I cannot remember the guy. I know he came from the coast of France, came to England, defeated Harold in battle, 1066, the Bayeux Tapestry. I cannot remember his name. What was his freaking name? Normandy is where he came from, not Saxony. Battle of Hastings. William the Conqueror. I could not remember it for the life of me. Yeah, culminating in William, Duke of Normandy's victory. Ah! I'm like, I know who the guy is. I cannot remember his name. For the life of me, it just escaped me. I could not. I'm like, what was his name? Yeah, William the Conqueror. Or William the Duke of Normandy. But yeah, which Normandy itself is just a section of France that William came from. But they would establish a line of kingdoms which would eventually switch after about, not a line of kingdoms, but a line of kingship. It lasted a number of kings, but eventually it went over to a different king line. I cannot remember. Yeah, I know this stuff, but it's like all of it sometimes just goes whoosh, mixes together. But yeah, Normandy, if you also notice, the Battle of Normandy, World War II, they stormed the beaches of Normandy to free France from the Nazis. So yeah. But apparently they've identified what was supposed to be King Harold's power location according to the Bayeux Tapestry. Which this is supposed to be reminiscing over how William defeated Harold, taking over. Yeah, Bayeux Tapestry showing King Harold riding to Bosham, where he attends church and feast in the hall of the NA Hall. Sorry, copyright the Society of Antiquaries of London. Anyway, yeah. Now, let's look at some pictures from the History Porn subreddit. First image, troops of the 4th Battalion Worcestershire Regiment marching to the trenches, Arche en Aminois, 1916, which is World War I. So yeah, you can see the soldiers here, their helmets and their equipment, the rifles and all this stuff they're carrying. I think the Worcestershire Regiment is British, which is, and they're apparently in a French location, Arche en Aminois. And I am probably butchering the hell out of that. I apologize. I do not know how to speak French. But yeah. Next image. Joseph Tiso, head of the Slovak People's Party, gives a pro-autonomy speech during a Pittsburgh Agreement demonstration in Bratislava, June 1938. So this is just before World War II. I think most of your Slovak areas were north of the Baltic areas, which the Baltics are your Greece and Macedonia and Albania and all that. Above them, I think you've got like your Romanias, but you've also got the former Czechoslovakia, former Yugoslavia. I think that's where a lot of the Slovak peoples were from. I am, again, possibly wrong on that, but I think it's in that area of Europe. So, yeah. Next, we have an image of Soviet troops distribute propaganda newspapers to Belarusians and Ukrainians in occupied Western Poland in 1939. So yeah, here's the image of that. You got the troops up here, and they're giving these propaganda papers to the citizenry. So yeah. Next picture, Irena Kubrak at her farm in the village of Czerwone, Poland, December the 3rd, 1974. I mean, it's just an image of a woman just living her life, 1974, feeding her farm animals. But even the big names need to be, or even the people who aren't big names need to be paid attention to just as much as those with the recognizable names. because a lot of the time knowing the culture and stuff like that does help. Knowing how life went does help. Next image, large student demonstration and protest in front of the main gate of Warsaw University in Warsaw, Polish People's Republic, May of 1988. So yeah. And here you have all the people. Here's the gate. So yeah, gate of Warsaw University. Now let's look at some images. More vintage NASA posters. I posted a week or so ago of some vintage posters, but I found the other ones I had pretty neat Skylab stuff. So there's the first image. The next image. And the final image. Excuse me. Now, let's look at some stories here. Carbonation gets to you. From Reuters, Trump administration to cancel student visas of pro-Palestinian protesters. So, you know, he don't like the First Amendment only if it's for him. Because if you're allowed to protest as per the First Amendment, no, I don't want you in our country, especially if you're not naturally from here, so I think I should be able to kick you out. I don't care if you are using what is technically part of our Constitution, the First Amendment. No, of course, he hates the Constitution, Trump does. He is no fan of the Constitution. Meanwhile, while he's president, from The Guardian, Donald Trump appeals his New York hush money conviction and seeks to overturn the conviction that he has for falsifying records in an alleged scheme to hide payment to an adult film actor. Should say actress, she was a woman, still a woman. He can't stand that it says he's guilty, but guess what? You're guilty! They've got the evidence. They showed it. You can appeal it, but I don't think it's going to go the other way. Although, the way you stacked courts, you little whiny ass puke. From the AP, former U.S. Senator Bob Menendez gets 11 years in prison for taking bribes and acting as an agent of Egypt. Good. I don't want corrupt figures in my government. I don't care what party you are. I think we should have more parties because the two-party system is so corrupt. We need to force them to work together. You know, you can't sit here and just like, I'm gonna do my stupid. Oh, now we're in power. We're gonna do our stupid. Hold on, I take power back. Let's do some more stupid from me. And it just on and on and on and on and on. From Fox News 4, Dallas ICE office told to aim for 75 arrests, daily arrest. So they want them to do 75 arrests per day. So it don't matter if you are here legally or illegally, there's a good chance you're going to be swept up in the racist quota bullshit. Remember when Republicans used to say, we don't like quotas? Now they want quotas. From the AP. While signing the Laken-Riley Act, Trump says he'll send the worst criminal aliens to Guantanamo. Because we've got to reopen the worst frickin' place we've ever had where we tortured people. Yeah, that'd be a wonderful fucking thing. God, he's so stupid. From Salon. Trump is trying to collapse our economy. War on woke revealed as a war on all Americans. Christian nationalists behind the spending shutdown aim to punish everyone, not just imaginary Marxists. Initially, the most striking detail of the White House Office on Management and Budget memo that has put a pause on huge swaths of the American economy is how unhinged the paranoia is. The order insists that all federal grant and loan spending must be halted to combat Marxist equity, transgenderism, and Green New Deal social engineering policies. Ordinary people may see nothing but a local bridge being repaired, broadband internet being installed, or a park getting cleaned up. Though through MAGA-colored glasses, it's all a plot to turn you into transgender Marxists and probably vegans who are worse than Satanists. Seriously, that's how the fucking mind of Republican and Trumpist dipshits work. From Axios. White House rescinds Trump's funding freeze memo after a huge backlash. The White House Office of Management and Budget rescinded a memo Wednesday that had ordered a temporary pause on federal funding and unleashed major confusion across the country. It's an astonishing reversal by the Trump administration a day after top officials defended the funding freeze, which a judge temporarily halted on Tuesday, as necessary to ensure all government spending was aligned with the president's vision. This is not a rescission of the federal funding freeze. It is simply a rescission of the OMB memo, White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt said in a post on X. Why? To end any confusion created by the court's injunction, the president's executive orders on the federal funding remain in full force and effect and will be vigorously implemented, she said. It's unclear what exactly Leavitt meant, as it was at the now rescinded memo, not the executive orders Trump signed previously, that outlined the temporary pause. Because, of course, they're stupid fucking morons. From WUSA 9. Washington Commander, so I'd say around Washington, D.C. somewhere is where this station's originally at. Because of Luigi Mangione. Woman arrested with Molotov cocktail outside U.S. Capitol cited the CEO killing suspect as inspiration, Department of Justice says. Federal prosecutors are asking a judge to order Riley Jane English of Massachusetts detained without bond while she awaits trial. Well, people are tired of the bullshit. All it is bullshit over and fucking over. And you're confused why people would be like, the guy was right. I ain't saying it was right. It's clear it was murder, but there's a reason people don't hate him for committing the murder. They have sympathy for him. From The Independent, Trump doubles down on $50 million condoms for Gaza claim, but the details are murky. The Trump administration clarified the claim on Wednesday, saying the $50 million is part of a broader aid package. So it's part of a broader aid package, but all they wanted to actually talk about as part of it was condoms for Gazans. See, this is the bullshit that comes from the Trump administration. This is how stupid and full of goddamn shit they really fucking are. They really fucking are. From The Guardian, Trump's approval rating dips after rush of executive orders, poll finds. Poll shows disapproval of immigration policies and Gulf of Mexico renaming. His popularity has fallen somewhat as an early rush of executive orders, including renaming the Gulf of Mexico and attacking birthright citizenship, are fairly unpopular with Americans, according to a new Reuters Ipsos poll. The president has cracked down on immigration and attempted to radically gut the government, with respondents to a 3-day poll which closed on Sunday expressing increasing disapproval. Overall, Reuters said the poll showed 45% of Americans approve of Trump's performance as president, down slightly from 47% a week before. So it's not changed a whole lot. Technically, statistically, it's probably insignificant. But yeah. It's, it just shows stupid orders like he's been doing aren't going to win you any points. His disapproval rate was slightly larger at 46%, an increase from 39% the week before. So 39% disapproved of him. Now he's at 46% disapprove of him. The margin of error is about 4 percentage points. So while his approval rate isn't statistically significant, his disapproval rate, yeah, that's 7 points. That's well outside the margin of error. Trump's first term approval rating was 49%, so he's been below it after he began his term, but it fell to 34% following the January 6th insurrection. Most Americans oppose the nation's long-standing practice of granting citizenship to children born in the U.S. even if neither parent has legal immigration status, the poll found. So yeah, most Americans are like, look, if you're born in the U.S., you're a U.S. citizen regardless. It's part of the fucking Constitution, you morons. About 59% of respondents, including 89% of Democrats and 36% of Republicans, said they opposed ending birthright citizenship. So yeah, the great majority of Americans are like, yeah, the attempt to end such a thing is dumbass. Of course, that's what Trump specializes in, is dumbass. From The Independent, he cheats his way through life. The 5 biggest bombshells from Carolyn Kennedy's open letter about RFK Jr. We mentioned this yesterday because I showed there was an article regarding this. Number 1, Predator Kennedy enjoyed putting chicks and mice in a blender. So yeah, apparently wasn't very good as a kid. 2, pushed his loved ones into a life of drug abuse. Yeah, Kennedy himself struggled with an addiction to heroin. 3, dangerous vaccine views which he is using to make himself rich. Depending on who he thinks will want to hear what, he'll either say, I'm for vaccines, or I see vaccines as dangerous. Because he's straddled the line trying to say one or the other, depending on which he thinks will help him. But often it's seen because history is recorded, dummy, that, hey, he said, I believe vaccines are dangerous. 4, preying on desperate parents of sick children while vaccinating his own. Yeah, he vaccinated his own children, had them vaccinated as, a parent would normally do. But then he's like, you shouldn't vaccinate your kids. Yeah. This is the kind of stupid Trump's getting Trump into office has done to America. And 5, Kennedy used his name to boost his career before he groveled to Trump. Yep. From 404media.co. Declassified CIA guide to sabotaging fascism is suddenly viral. Yep, a declassified World War II era government guide to simple sabotage is currently one of the most popular open source books on the internet. The book, called Simple Sabotage Field Manual, was declassified in 2008 by the CIA and describes ways to train normal people to be purposefully annoying telephone operators, dysfunctional train conductors, befuddling middle managers, blundering factory workers, unruly movie theater patrons, and so on. In other words, teaching people to do their jobs badly. And it's in this instance that it's a way to push back on certain movements such as fascism. Because what was going on during World War II, where this was originally from, Hitler, who ruled Germany, was a fascist. Mussolini, who ruled Italy, was a fascist. And we were fighting both countries. Yeah. So, yeah, baby. From International Business Times, Bernie Sanders slams RFK for selling Novavax, no problem, baby onesies for $26, as he claims to support vaccines. Yeah, apparently a group that RFK was a part of is like, no vaccines, no problem. They sewed these onesies for your baby. And he's pointing out, do you believe in vaccines or not? If you're selling such things, why would you say you believe in vaccinations? Get him, Bernie. Get him. From The Guardian, the U.S. DA Inspector General escorted out of office after defying a Trump order. Phyllis Fong had told colleagues that she intended to stay after the White House terminated her on Friday. Security agents escorted the Inspector General of the U.S. Department of Agriculture out of her office on Monday after she refused to comply with her firing by the Trump administration, sources familiar with the matter told Reuters. Phyllis Fong, a 22-year veteran of the department, had earlier told colleagues she intended to stay after the White House terminated her on Friday, saying that she did not believe the administration had followed proper protocols. And they forced her out by telling security to escort her. See, this administration has been such a fuck up from the beginning. From the cool down, scientists sound the alarm after finding thousands of seabirds dead on beaches. The message is clear. There has been no sign of populations recovering. Scientists have discovered that marine heat waves are having a devastating impact on the populations of seabirds in Alaska after examining population numbers. In 2014, scientists at the Alaska Maritime National Wildlife Refuge knew something was wrong when they started noticing thousands of common murres washing up on the beaches in Alaska. A decade later, a study led by these scientists has documented the devastating effect the marine heat waves have had on the population of these birds along the coast of Alaska. As the University of Washington detailed data was collected from surveys of the bird colonies between 2008 and 2022 to determine the impact that a marine heat wave that occurred between 2014 and 2016 had on population numbers. It was found that this heat wave, known as the blob, resulted in the deaths of between 50 to 75% of the birds, depending on the colony in question. The study, which was led by biologist Heather Renner and published in Science, estimated that approximately 4 million birds died in total, which is around half the population. So yeah, more evidence global warming is having a vicious effect. From YouGov in the UK. How do Britons feel about Brexit 5 years on after it was enacted? 55% of Britons now say it was wrong for the UK to leave the EU, with just 11% seeing Brexit as more of a success than a failure. I guarantee you most of that 11% is the more wealthier members of society in the UK. So yeah, people like Nigel Farage and stuff like that. But the average Briton, they're like, yeah, we shouldn't have left the EU. So yeah. Just 3 in 10 Britons, 30%, say that it was right for the UK to vote to leave the EU, compared to 55% who say it was wrong, and 11% see it as an actual success. So even of the 30% who say, yeah, I was right, but it wasn't a success, there's still only about less than half who are like, yeah. From The Guardian, Ukraine war briefing. Putin refuses direct talks with Zelensky. Russian president calls Ukrainian counterpart illegitimate. Zelensky says government will try to replace suspended U.S. aid. It's clear Putin doesn't want an actual peace. He seeks to take over the country. It's always been a war of aggression for Russia. We know this. Anybody with a brain knows this. From The Guardian. Headed for techno-fascism, the right-wing roots of Silicon Valley. The industry's liberal reputation is misleading. Its reactionary tendencies, celebrating wealth, power, and traditional masculinity have been clear since the dot-com mania of the 1990s. So yeah, they're saying there was a right-wing flow of attitude in the tech community for a long time. From SBS News Australia, act of brutality. Cuba rebukes Donald Trump's Guantanamo Bay migrant detention plan. Remember, Guantanamo Bay is in Cuba. The U.S. President says he will order the Pentagon and Department of Homeland Security to prepare the facility to house as many as 30,000 migrants. This was the same infamous Guantanamo Bay that so many so-called terrorists during the Iraq and Afghanistan wars' early days were held. From CTV News Canada, Canadian consumers call for a boycott of American-made food in light of tariff threat. So not just a tariff, but a boycott. So yeah. Again, Trump being a stupid ass. It's fucking America right over. From the New Arab, Israel strikes on South Lebanon around wound 24. According to the health ministry, Israeli airstrikes wounded 24 people in South Lebanon on Tuesday, despite a ceasefire that has been in place for over 6 weeks. Again, Israel needs its ass kicked back to Israel for all the evil they have committed. Also from the New Arab, U.S. envoy Witkoff kickstarts Israel visit to oversee Gaza ceasefire. U.S. Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff began his visit to the region on Wednesday amid negotiations to begin the second phase of the truce between Israel and Hamas. Yeah, whatever. Now, let's watch some videos here. First video. Closed-circuit television footage captures an Israeli sniper shooting a Palestinian child in the back, leaving him to bleed in Tulkarm today. The child is reportedly in critical condition. Viewer discretion is advised before I play this. I'll give you time to switch off, but yeah. Alright, we're playing this. And as the adrenaline kind of just dies down, the boy feels the effects. I'd say at this point he's passed out. The guy on the crutches, or the walking crutches or whatever, are trying to help him. Tell me again. Tell me again how Israel's fighting to defend itself when we see a video like this. You tell me Israel's fighting to defend itself, I'll knock the fuck out of you. You can't fucking tell me that bullshit when they do shit like that. Trump plans to build mass detention facility at Guantanamo Bay.
Today I'm also signing an executive order to instruct the Departments of Defense and Homeland Security to begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay. Most people don't even know about it. We have 30,000 beds in Guantanamo to detain the worst criminal illegal aliens threatening the American people. Some of them are so bad we don't even trust the countries to hold them because we don't want them coming back, so we're going to send them out to Guantanamo. This will double our capacity immediately, right? And that's a tough place to get out of. Today's signings bring us one step closer to eradicating the scourge of migrant crime in our communities once and for all. And it was just a pure.
Nope, we're just bringing back the fucking George W. Bush era of torture and detainment.
And total restoration of our sovereign borders, as well as financial support to remove record numbers of illegal aliens.
God, he's such a shithead. Bernie Sanders grills RFK Jr. about the $26 anti-vax onesies he shills while claiming he now is okay with vaccines. Get him, Bernie!
You have started a group called the Children's Health Defense. You're the originator. Right now, as I understand it, on their website, they are selling what's called onesies. These are little things, clothing for babies. One of them is titled Unvaxxed, Unafraid. Next one, and they're sold for $26 a piece, by the way. Next one is No Vax, No Problem. Now, you're coming before this committee and you say you're pro-vaccine. Just want to ask some questions. And yet your organization is making money selling a child's product to parents for $26, which casts fundamental doubt on the usefulness of vaccines.
Get him, Bernie! Puh! I love Bernie. He should have been president. God knows we've been in much better shape if he had won, instead of the shitocrats fucking rigging the fucking system against them. You would think I would be more angry against Democrats for what they did to Bernie. I fucking hate what they did to Bernie. But I also know the fucking Republicans are an actual threat to humanity. So it's like, we have stupid and reckless versus monstrous and evil. That's the options for voting in the U.S. Pritzker tells the truth on what really happened during the funding freeze.
Despite what the White House press secretary said at the podium earlier, I believe it is my duty to report to you the truth of what actually happened in Illinois.
Tell us.
Donald Trump's administration is lying to you.
I know he is.
The White House's attempt to walk back what they did today does not match what we saw on the ground. They assured us that Medicaid would not be affected. That was a lie. Our state agencies were unable to access the Medicaid system until an hour ago, preventing payments for services. And this has been reported from states across the nation. When we reached out to federal agencies, they informed us that they have been directed not to discuss any guidance with states. They have canceled previously scheduled meetings for this week.
Yep.
The White House assured us that Head Start would not be affected.
Nah.
That was a lie.
Yep.
Providers across the state experienced outages, and some were unable to make their payroll. They assured us that they were doing nothing to take away individual assistance from the most vulnerable people in our state, but they refused to say that they would restore LIHEAP, the Low-Income Housing Energy Assistance Program, payments to support the unemployment system, and Meals on Wheels. These are programs that hundreds of thousands of Illinoisans depend on.
Yep.
Children, seniors, veterans, working parents. Let's just be clear about what happened over the last 24 hours. At 7:42 p.m. last night, we saw a memo from the White House saying that they were pausing federal funding across the board. This morning, along with all 50 states across the country, we discovered that our ability to access critical federal funding had been cut off. And now the administration would like us to believe that these were just coincidental website outages. Donald Trump and his administration have not earned the benefit of the doubt. They are either lying to us or they are critically incompetent.
Yep.
This is what happens when you staff the federal government full of Project 2025 contributors that don't have any experience governing and don't think that the laws apply to them. The consequences of their actions are not hypothetical. They are not numbers on a spreadsheet. These are real people, ordinary Americans struggling to afford groceries, rent, and health care. Donald Trump promised to lower prices for average Americans his first week in office. Name one thing that he's done to accomplish that. Prices have gone up, not down.
Exactly. Donald Trump is so fucking full of shit. And yet morons are still like, but I like him. He makes sense to me. Next video. Colorado officer, third day on the job, responding to call about suspicious vehicle. Shoots into car, killing driver. Officer pleads guilty to manslaughter, facing 6 years in prison. Okay, let's see what the hell happened here.
Get out the ground! Get out! Come on! Get out now! Get out! Get out! Get out!
Dispatch, shots fired.
A former police officer in northern Colorado who was charged with murder pled guilty to manslaughter on Monday. Eric Hernandez was working as a police officer in LaSalle in May of 2023. He responded to a call about a suspicious vehicle at a Family Dollar. Hernandez shot at the car as it was driving away, hitting the driver.
What makes it suspicious? What makes it suspicious? What made you think, let's just shoot into the vehicle? Just pull my gun out and shoot straight into the vehicle.
Driver and killing him. Hernandez is scheduled to be sentenced on April 25th. He faces up to 6 years in prison and up to a lifetime of parole.
So what are you going to do? Two things I can do. We can, right now it's parked. Double parked. So we got a complaint so we could tow it. Or if we wanted to be nice, leave a 72-hour tag on it. We'll go that route, but in this case.
How about this? Pull the car up right in front of it and let's go see if they're inside.
I could do that. For sure.
I think guns should be taken away from a lot of beat officers. because they're too quick to pull that gun off and fire bullets like they're fucking confetti. Next video. Viewer discretion advised. War crimes. Palestinian citizens discovered severed heads hidden in barrels upon returning to areas previously used as settlements by Israeli occupation forces in central Gaza. Give you a moment to go ahead and just bring the window down if you don't want to watch it or whatever, but here we go. Yeah, they're showing the skulls. Jeez. Probably has actual words to it. I should turn the sound on, shouldn't I?
أي جرائم الاحتلال؟ أي جرائم الاحتلال اللي ارتكبوها الصهاينة. من وين جبتم هذول؟ من جامعة الإسراء. من جامعة الإسراء؟ اللي بعد فلسطين. لقيناهم في قلن حاطين اليهود مقطعين 3 رؤوس وحاطينها في الأرض. محللة في أعظم كثير. أي لقينا 4 رؤوس. لقينا راس لحاله و3 في جهة القلم.
Jeez. Again, tell me again how these Israelis are just defending themselves. Okay, next video. Hallmark vendor at Walmart fired after offering boxes to a Hispanic lady to pack and go home for when they deport you. People like this shouldn't get jobs. They don't deserve to be employed, to have gainful work. They should be the ones out picking vegetables, out working on road crews. Because they sure as fuck aren't suited to fucking work with the public.
You need boxes? No. To go home? No. No boxes to pack and go home? No. Okay, I got them for you if you need them. Let me know. They're all in here. The thing is if you don't take your stuff and go, when they deport you, all your stuff stays here. No, thank you. And gets auctioned off to people that just want to okay. That's it.
I think fucks like that stupid old bitch should be the ones deported. If Trump don't give a shit about how the 14th Amendment works, let's fucking just deport all the shitheads. Like that goddamn bitch. Anyway. This is, who is, it's supposed to be Mike, but they put Mick Huckabee, the U.S. Christian Zionist ambassador to Israel. It's a 6.5 minute video. We ain't gonna watch it, but I'll leave it for you to watch. Next video. Resilience in the face of atrocities. Palestinians began rebuilding their communities after losing everything. Residents in North Gaza have started cleaning and painting the streets in anticipation of those returning to their homes from the South. See, this is good people. This is what good people should do. But tell me again, how those Israelis are just defending themselves. I don't want to take it out. Really, dude? I just close the stupid thing. I didn't want you to try to take it out. Next video is footage documents the moment Israeli occupation tanks chased civilian vehicles in the village of Marwahin, southern Lebanon. Israeli tanks chasing civilians. Yeah, look at this. Tell me again how those Israelis are just defending themselves. Returning home. This one's a little longer video, just over 2 minutes. My home. This is what people are returning back to. Jeez almighty.
كل شيء دمار لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله كل شيء دمار كله مدمر هاي الحدود الفلسطينية هاي الدبابات قدامنا على التبت في قذيفة هنا
Holes in the wall, everything destroyed. Look at all the rubble.
هاي السطح ما كان قذيفة برضه
So much overturned and just
هاي السطح ما كان هنا هو قذيفة دمار في كل مكان دمار.
Again, tell me how Israel and the IDF are just defending themselves. The contrast between treatment of Palestinian and Israeli hostages and their condition on release only grows more stark with each handover. Here, two Palestinians recount the regimented abuse they were subjected to while in Israeli custody. I've shown videos of Israeli people that were held hostage after October 7th that were released, and they look great. They talk about how they were treated well. But here we're going to see how Palestinians were treated in Israeli custody.
والله التعذيب صعب، تعذيب صعب فوق ما تتصور، فوق والله الاكل صرنا نصوم مشان نوفر اكل للاشبال، احنا بنتحمل يعني احنا شوي بنتحمل يعني صرنا نصوم يوم بعد يوم مشان نوفر اكل للاطفال، اشبال صغيره كلها. في عندنا كثير ايديهم مطبوشه، في عندنا قصور.
A lot of them had bruised palms, broken noses, teeth. The blood was everywhere. The cells were flooded with blood, flowing with water, and were dragging prisoners to torture every time. So yeah, this must have been a former Palestinian soldier or Israeli guard or something, I'm not sure. 4 to 5 soldiers get you in a room and keep you busy and they pour hot water and then ice cold water. They tie us and, talking about how they were getting tortured, hitting our heads constantly. They were brutal tactics of torture. And all the prisoners want is any action to whoever can help. The prisoners are asking for help. They are dying. I swear to God that if they shot us, it would have been a release. If we died by the hundreds, there was no life. It was endless torture. Death would have been more merciful. I swear to God, it was brutal torture. The Shin Bet Israeli intelligence were part of who tortured him. He's talking about. Testimony of a freed Palestinian detainee. We dedicate this victory to the people of Palestine, especially people of Gaza and resistance. We left a lot of tormented souls.
بعرفش اني خارج، كنت معاقب نايم على الحديد. على شو نايم على الحديد؟ دخلت علي قوات المتسابة، انا واخوتي في غرفة 16 تم ضربنا، وغرفة 12 تم ضربها، غرفة 20 تم ضربها بدون اي سبب.
I'll stop it there because I just noticed the music. Not looking to get dinged for music. Finally, last video here we're going to watch. North Korean tour guide telling the history of the Korean War. So this is Korean War as per North Korea's view of it.
I'm going to explain about the process of the war from beginning to the end of the war, okay, with this map here. So here this is Pyongyang, our capital, and here is Seoul, Myanmar's capital. And there is a serious parallel like this, which was the demarcation line at that time. So at the beginning of the war, on June the 25th, 1950, the enemy state suddenly invaded our territory and intruded 1 or 2 kilometers. But at that time, our soldiers under the command of the great leader, they frustrated this sudden invasion and went over to the counter-offensive. So on June the 28th, 1950, we liberated Seoul. And later we liberated several areas, and on July the 20th, 1950, we liberated here this city called Daejeon, which was the enemy's provisional capital at that time. And here this is the river Rakdong, which we saw in the painting. Okay, so this is the river Rakdong. So our people's army crossed this river and finally drove the enemies into these limited areas until September 1950.
So from beginning to September 1950, our People's Army could liberate over 90% of alternative South Korea and 92% of its population. But from September, the enemies they began to mobilize larger forces on the Korean front in order to recover their defeat. So they gathered a lot of rifles, most of the larger forces, large troops from America, and also from 15 other countries under the name of UN, including England, Turkey, France, Australia, New Zealand, Philippines, and so on. So with these larger troops, they conducted a large-scale landing operation here in Incheon. So the enemies, while attacking along the river Rakdong here, they conducted a large-scale landing operation here in Incheon. So what they intended was to block the way of our retreat, so that they could encircle our main force here in this area and to annihilate them completely. So it was a very difficult situation for our People's Army, and there was also a great disparity between the balance of the two sides at that time, okay, between the enemies and us. Okay. So the great leader Comrade Kim Il-sung, he set forth the new strategic policy at that time, that was to make the retreat, not just retreat, but it was strategic retreat, in order to save the main force for to be circled here in this area. So at that time, under the command of the grand leader, Comrade Kim Il-sung, our soldiers here in Incheon and Seowol, they fought well, and they delayed the enemy's landing operation 14 days in this period, and greatly contributed to the planned retreat of the main force. So our main force could successfully retreat to the north. And at that time, the enemies they occupied several parts of the country, including Pyongyang as well. So on this map, you can see the red lines up there. So those red lines were the final defense lines at that time. So the enemies they intruded up to there where the red lines are. Okay. But even though in such a difficult situation, when we were making the retreat, we prepared well for the new counter-offensive under the command of the Grand Leader. So at that time, here in the enemy's rear, second front was formed, and in the occupied areas, guerrilla units were organized. And at that time also 12 new divisions were organized in the northern areas of the country. So from October 25th, 1950, our soldiers, together with the Chinese People's Volunteers, they began to frustrate the enemy's attack again and went towards the counter-offensive. And in cooperation with the units who were in the enemy's rear and also the guerrilla units in the occupied areas, we liberated all those occupied areas. And until June 1951, we completely drove all those enemies out of the country, again south of Third Parallel. And from then, the front was mainly stabilized on the Third Parallel from June 1951. And from July that year, the enemies they began to suggest about the armistice negotiation. But the main purpose was to gain time for the new offensive behind the scene of this negotiation. So the war lasted 2 more years from then. And finally, on July the 27th, 1953, the enemies they signed the armistice, and the 3-year-long Korean War ended. Okay? I just briefly explained about the process of the war. Is that a question?
So yeah, explain from the North Korean point of view. Korean War is one of those wars I haven't delved into too much. So yeah. Even though I don't think it's considered a war by the government, it was considered a defensive action to protect. I hate the Cold War era because it's like using other regions just Anyway, let's go ahead and end this episode here. As always, educate thyself. Think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. I'll be putting links and sources in the description box below the video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.